I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business tonight is to adopt the agenda. I don't think there's any changes to the agenda.
No, I don't think so.
We moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any guest presentations?
Yeah, Mr. LeBlanc is going to talk tonight.
Okay.
Okay, you're up, Mr. LeBlanc.
Unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, sir. All right. So Mr. Kirkland asked me to talk a little bit about the drug testing that we've been doing. It's been going really well. The kids have been, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kids have been really compliant. We've done 16 drug tests since we started, and we've had 0 positives. So that's, right there, I think it's working. And we've tested, a lot of the kids we've tested, we kind of knew the results or what was going to happen. So we've had quite a few kids that, when we tested them, I've heard rumors or things like that. And so it's been pretty good. It's been really good, actually. So we're 16 for 16 so far. We'll cross our fingers, hopefully we continue that. Kind of what we've been doing, and I've kind of adjusted a little bit what we've done, but basically is what we call a male athlete in by themselves. They come in the gym during 6th hour when there's no PE class, and I'll make sure the locker room's clear. We've gone to not allowing hoodies or coats or anything like that. And they go in, they fill the sample cup, and then I do the test in front of them so they can see the results, and we go from there. Then we send them back to class, and then we go with a female student, and Mrs. Spencer does the female testing. So we've usually been doing 1 to 2 male and female athletes a week. Most of the time we try to do them on Monday. Sometimes I've done them on a Tuesday and a Wednesday too before. I don't want to get into a rhythm. But like I said, the kids have been really compliant, and they've been good with it. So I think it's doing a job. I think we're seeing a decrease in it, and hopefully we can continue with that. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, well, thank you, Morgan. That was very informative.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else for guest
No.
presentations? Okay. We'll go into item 5, action item, approve the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the October meeting, the bills, and classified personnel action, which is printed in your packet. And so I'll give you a few minutes to look over the bills.
We've got those amended policies
Oh yeah,
in there
amended
too,
policies too, yeah.
that we reviewed last month. Just a quick note on those policies that we reviewed, just a reminder, those were just language changes in other policies because of the Title IX policy that was adopted. So we also condensed one of those. It was the Title IX procedure that they sent it out a couple months ago, but then they took out all the redundant language that we had approved last month.
In general, who or what drives those policy changes? Like a lot of it's just even like minor work changes. What's the driver behind a lot of those?
ISBA works with the attorneys, Anderson, Julian, and Hulda, to get those right. A lot of the time it's just districts actually. Districts will call with issues, or districts will call with something that needs to be a policy, or maybe they'll find policies that they have trouble with and they need to be reworded or something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's, it seems like this year, but I'm pretty new to it, but it seems like this year there's been a lot of effort in just shortening them up and not making them redundant. And then there was also, was it last year maybe, we went through where basically almost all the policies were updated with just the reference material that was really outdated.
Okay.
They were just catching up. But of course, the law changes. So when every year with the new legislative session, then they focus on that stuff first.
So the honey dryer, I'm guessing that's with bees? The bees?
Yeah.
Does it work, Eric?
Haven't got it yet.
Volt battery for $120. Pretty pricey, that. The regular, must be regular.
Is that a battery for deep cell? Don?
What?
Is that a battery that I purchased, your question?
Well, I was looking
It's
for
already in
Register.
a fire, so I assume they just use a regular automotive battery or something?
No, they're not. But those are replaced every couple of years, and that was one of the issues we were having with our fire alarm at the elementary. It was shorted out, and the circuitry went into trouble, and that was needed to be replaced. Was the battery was caused it to short out. But the cost of the batteries is, there's two of them that go in each one.
So the Balance Incorporated, is that the, I'm guessing that's some technology,
Balance Incorporated.
the
Or
10, 20, 20,
1021.
10, 20, at the top.
Oh, balance. That would be, Dan, are you here?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, so on balance, we paid $11,000 for ICOM system, VHF voted, and $21,000 for ICOM portables. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, it's the radio project.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Is there any patron input, Amy? None? Okay, informational reports. We'll start out with the financial reports, okay?
Okay, so the audit is finally complete, and I guess I should have brought you guys, I didn't think about that. The finalized audit, which is the same as the adjusted ones you have, or whatever you want to call it.
So if you had the 7 ridges in there then?
Huh?
The 7 ridges
Yeah,
balance sheet.
yeah. So, I can bring that next time, sorry, I didn't think about that. Well, all this money's been requested, most of it's coming in this month. And that's about all I have for the moment. Do you want me to speak now, Steve, or? Okay.
We'll have a discussion.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything for Kim? All right, and then we'll move on to Dan. Do you have a report, Dan?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Just a heads up, a lot of the stuff that we ordered with the blended learning grant is starting to trickle in. Last month was the iPads, and so this month, the Chromebooks, which were slated to be here in the end of February, if I remember correctly, they actually arrived. So we got those pushed out to 4th grade, 7th grade got theirs today, and then 8th grade will pick theirs up tomorrow. That way we've got everybody pretty much on, we have everybody on the exact same model of Chromebook. The ones that have been kind of floating around in 7th and 8th grade, they're looking pretty ratty. I'll have to bring in an example one of these times for you guys to see. It's interesting what they can do to them. We have other things that are getting set to arrive. One of them coming in Thanksgiving break, the week of, or it's being shipped at that time. So about 2 months ago, the State Board of Education put out a survey to schools and said, hey, we understand that you guys need devices. You know, how many devices do you need? We're looking at doing a purchase through the state, that. Well, so at this time, we had not ordered our stuff with this learning grant money yet. And so I said, yeah, here's how many we need. And nothing, heard nothing. And last week, I got an email saying, hey, we have some of those devices for you. Okay, well, that number has changed. So we're going to have an extra set of some Chromebooks coming in probably the first part of December. We're going to use those as spare devices because the numbers are going to be, we're sitting on enough to get us through everything, but we'll need spares from them. And we're also going to make sure that every teacher has access to a Chromebook as well. It'll just help with them working on stuff in the classroom and helping the kids out with, it's a different platform. The professional development software that we purchased as part of this blended learning grant too, to help teachers out, there is curriculum inside of that to help them with that and with a lot of different technology topics. Mr. Kirkland went the extra mile and got a hold of NNU, and so teachers can now earn professional development credit through, or continuing education credit through NNU. So that's pretty good. Knowing that with the TV works great in here, the camera and the speaker on the other end, Mark, I'm starting to see and hear what you were hearing last month with all this. Yeah, it's been a concern. We need to upgrade some of this, so I have money left over on the grant as well. We're going to do some different things with that. It'll basically expand our capability to do some better quality live streaming if we have to, or if we have to have a meeting like this. The device you're looking at, the camera up above, works great if we were not socially distanced. But since we are, it's less than optimal at this point, so we're going to get that fixed. Joe and I are, well actually Joe is laying the backbone right now for the Pixel Lock camera installation. Mr. LeBlanc is trying to get that coordinated as exactly what that day is going to be to get that installed at the gym. The football field is going to be a little bit difficult as most of the parts that we need to connect that are on serious back order, so we may have to split that into two. That's pretty much all I've got this month. If you have any questions.
Steve or Dan, do we have a plan for the couple games prior to the camera being installed? Are we going to try and do like a live stream on Facebook or something?
Yeah, Mr. LeBlanc's talked to some people about Facebook Live.
Yeah, I've seen, I watched my niece's junior high game last night, and it's not quite as good as the other, but it was better than not seeing it. So I need to follow the game, and
Yeah.
so it was at least it was an option.
Yeah, I think he's,
We only have one home game before our camera
Okay,
is installed.
as long as
It all
everything
works
goes-
out.
Yeah, it goes to
Yeah.
plan.
yeah, he's talked to somebody about doing that.
Okay,
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Principals report, JES principals report. Go ahead, Dory.
Okay, thank you. And if, well, I'm happy to mute or mic. Thank you. All right, this month we have, well, last month we had 133, now we have 134, that is up one from last year in our enrollment. We also have 4 new students coming in December. Kindergarten and first grade, I don't know if you know this or not, but the state asked us to get all their immunization and birth certificate records for kindergarten and first. And we were really hard and diligent about getting those reports. And just letting you know that kindergarten out of 19 students, there is 1 shot record, they're exempt. 1 is working on getting their shot records, and 1 has applied for the birth certificate. So, and then 1 first grade is, we have all shot records and birth certificates. And Vicki works really hard getting those for us. We work with the school nurse, and but we also offer birth certificates if they're not, if we can't afford it, then we try to help out in any way. But so that's pretty cool that we're on the up and up there. I gave you some results on our ice station. Does everybody have those?
Oh, Steve's passing them out now, I just can't hear some.
What you see in front of you are the results. I thought I would report each month on how we're looking. And this is a tier movement. Remember that the 3 is below basic, a 2 is strategic or basic, and a 1, the first tier, is at grade level. And you can tell right now, and if you have the kindergarten in front of you here, how September till November, how well we're doing in kindergarten. That means that the tiers are what we're doing in the classroom, in our title, they're responding to intervention, and they're responding to the classroom teacher. So again, we looked at red at top. We want to close that gap, so that's about 10 to 5% by the end of the year. So kindergarten, and I have them all for 6th grade. So really, I wanted to focus on K3 because we just finished our ERI, and we had some great success with that. Those were our tier 2 and 3 kids. We did a 2-week session with them. We had 37 students, 4 teachers, 2 one-on-one aides, 2 buttons and drivers, and 1 actor.
Hey, Dory,
Yeah.
can you tell us what an ERI is?
Yep, early feeding intervention. So I talked about that last month. I don't know if you remember me talking about that we were going to focus in on those tier 2 and 3 level kids to get them up to hopefully up to tier 1 by the end of the year. So when they came in September, we tested them. This is the IRI, the Idaho Reading Indicator. We tested them, and we had 49 students who were below, basic or below. And then what we did is we decided to come in for a couple of weeks and do some intensive intervention. And we offered that for 2 weeks. And we're going to offer it as well in the spring. And, but right now we're closing the gap, so which is exciting. Last month I talked about our wildly important goals. We have a school-wide reading goal. And so all students every day, they report to me by the end of the week. The teachers are, just giving them 10 minutes or more, that's the minimum, per day to read silently. And then also we have an AR, accelerated reading goal, as a date, 1,000 per month, but 10,000 by the end of the year, and the date we have 2,703 points. So we're making some good gains, hoping to get a lot of reading in and help grow those students. And that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Dory? All right, thank you, Dory.
Thanks, Dory.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, principal's report.
Okay, I don't have a lot of items this month, but our enrollment is at 118, and I think that's where we were last month as well. Our November students of the month in the category of leadership are Lila Brown and Aaron Morgan. The next item down there, library furniture. Mrs. Heather and I have been talking since last year actually, about possibly looking at library furniture for in here. She found some that I'd like to bring to you next month to consider. And it looks kind of like what you see there, with chairs like that and small tables. The ones on the left is actually what it is, but without the desk part of it, because when she researched it, the desk part of it didn't hold up very well. So it's just the chairs and the tables there. So that'll be on the agenda next month. School furniture is really spendy, especially furniture that holds up, like in an atmosphere like that. But we do have quite a few kids who use the library regularly now, and we would like to make it, a good environment for them. We have kids coming in all day actually now, not during classes, but sometimes during classes when they're supposed to be down here, but like lunches and things like that. Mrs. Hedler has basically created a system, and you can see it up here, where kids can self-check out. And we haven't had that in the past, so it's been kind of hard, and kids haven't used the library very much. But that's different this year. They're using it a lot more. And they come in the morning, too. And so there's a lot of books being checked in and out. And we just like to improve the space. The price tag on that is right around $8,000, though, for, I think it's 12 chairs and about 3 of the tables, and so it would be basically like 3 sitting stations areas to consider. And of course we can change that, but anyway, that's something that I'd like to bring to you next month. And it doesn't even have to be like a certain number, but that's what she brought to me. So is there any thoughts on that?
And we see it, that stuff is used a lot on campus. I think it improves the study atmosphere.
Okay. It's just there's a big sticker shock when it comes to like school furniture, and so right. It is, yeah. Okay, moving on. I had the football fieldhouse conversation on here, but I'm going to skip it because we have a discussion item. So we got that coming up next. Under district, I've only got a couple things here, and it's already outdated, but Idaho is back into stage 2 now, so it really hasn't affected a lot that's happening in school necessarily. It's more affected athletics right now as far as like capacity for events and things like that. There's a few other things like concerts and Christmas shows and stuff that we're having to change, but we were already in the process of changing them anyway. But So that's where we are now. Dan talked a little bit about the Pixelot system. Right now that's scheduled to be installed December 10th and 11th. You can see, if you've kind of been looking around there, some schools have gotten theirs in and everybody else is pretty much on a wait list right now to have it installed before Christmas. So I would expect, you know, probably by January, February, I would say every school in the region will have it installed. If you didn't get a chance to check it out last night, it really works pretty well. You know, if you have the, especially if you have the right device to like stream it, and the cost is actually pretty good for a subscriber. You know, if you get the annual pass, we were talking about it today. If you get the annual pass, it comes out to less than $6 a month, which is less than what it costs to go to one game for one adult. So it's really a pretty good price right now. Probably go up, but it's a pretty good deal, and you can go in and you can look at any game that's happening at any point. So it's kind of a cool thing. Okay.
Steve, one thing, I am part of the chamber in Moscow, and Habitat for Humanity said that they are kind of easing up on building houses right now, just with everything going on with COVID. And so they did extend it if there's any schools in our area that are in need of any sort of, you know, some sort of protection for the students or the teachers that need to be built. They have some skilled carpenters that are willing to donate their time. So if you think of anything, let me know. I can get you in touch with the director of that. But they did outreach to some schools at that meeting.
Thanks. That segues into the next thing very well. So we're still receiving protective equipment from the Department of Administration pretty regularly. We begin sanitizer, masks, things like that. We've gotten dividers. We've gotten the plastic or the plexiglass dividers for teachers' desks. We got a bunch of student dividers. We actually got like 150 of them. They're a different type of divider. They don't actually work that well because they kind of block a lot of vision and stuff. But if it came down to it, kind of a last resort type thing, it'd be better than not having kids here. But they don't work that great. But it is what it is. So anyway, that stuff is still being distributed. And I got another email today that more is available, so yeah. And that's actually all I have. Any questions for me?
All right, thank you, Steve. Trustee reports, do we have any trustee reports?
Any thoughts on the conference?
Yeah, does anybody have? I looked at a few of the workshops. Did anybody else get a chance to?
I haven't yet.
The ones with Amy White were good. Well, they're always good.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones. And a couple of the recorded ones, I kind of thought they were advertisements. The ones that are pre-recorded. So. But some of them were good, some of them weren't.
You know, there were a few things that even going forward, if we're ever even meeting in person again, having some of their thoughts on each resolution where they have a member of the board kind of speak to whether they support it or not. It was kind of nice to have those pre-recorded.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, even at an annual meeting, it'd be nice to just have those play rather than someone getting up and talking and so.
It would be good.
Did they send you guys out a survey? Because I had an email to take a survey on it.
Yeah.
And I'll mention that in the survey too, though.
Yeah, I liked it better. I mean, I thought it made it a little more efficient, but I left early, so I don't know how long you guys were here till.
I mean, it took quite a while. I had to leave at
About
about
noon.
30. So,
At noon.
yeah.
Were there any more topics that had to be discussed, or were they all pretty?
Just the one about the
More oversight for the
charter
church.
schools.
Charter school, yeah, that was, they had the kitchen sink in there for about everything with the charter school.
But it failed because it was too broad.
Yeah.
is Football Fieldhouse project.
Joe, you wanna, do
Joe
you have a copy of this?
I'm not sure what
Here
you're
you go.
showing.
This is what we got from Cameron today.
I read that.
Okay. I just printed them out for everybody. So we, Joe, and I'll let you do the talking because you know more than I do here. Joe and I met with Cameron from Design West just talk about kind of what we were thinking as far as a starting point for that field house out at the football field. We gave him a draft, which you see in the board packet, of what we were thinking, with a couple locker rooms, concessions, restrooms, to move those restrooms across the road to the football side, guest referee room, and I guess that's it. He took it and took it to the next level, really, on the last page of that handout, and brought it to scale and stuff. And then, you know, he and Joe, I'll let you talk, Joe, but he and Joe basically went back and forth on what we would need to have happen out there.
What we're talking about is a 4,000 square foot building that'll go in the location out there where the concession stands is, all the way to the corner where the fence is in the parking lot there. We got 5-foot offsets off of our property boundaries. We'll have to be doing a survey, and then we got to dig some holes for some seepage to check on to make sure the water will seepage right. I did see that we'll have to increase the water line from the main meter from 3/4 to 1 inch, which would be about 150 foot of water line. And then the main sewer line that the concession stands is now working out of, that's a 2-inch line. That's not big enough for our sewer line with the stools and urinals that we're talking about in this building. So we'll have to increase that up to probably a 4-inch, maybe even a 6-inch, but we haven't got the information dialed in on that yet. Either way, it's going to have to be put in to the specs for the number of stools and urinals, showers. And what I've asked if the city, the way the city charges on our sewer rates is off of each stool and each urinal is how we're charged. Well, since we've demolished the old, demoed the old trailer, that was one out there that they've been charging us from all along, which they should not have. I've asked them to stop. I talked to Rob the other day, and he's got that stopped. We're going to be reimbursed on the amount that we have paid over the time. And then there's 2 stools in the ladies and 1 stool, 1 urinal in the outside bathrooms. We'll take those numbers and move them over to the new building, so we're not being a huge number of increase in our utilities cost there. So just giving you some insights of some of the infrastructure work that needs to be done. The size of the building, you know, we laid out, Steve and Morgan and myself, scratched it out with some paint lines a couple weeks ago to see how that would lay out in there, and it really does fit nicely. As you come into the gate, the concessions would be right there facing the people when they're coming in, just to make things more user-friendly. The men's and women's restrooms will need to be ADA compliant, so those are under certain sizes that you have to have everything. Certain urinals, certain stools, they all have, you know, to maintain certain heights and grab bars and everything. Those are all going to be part of this. Then we went on and talked about, you know, the number of $1 million to 800 to $1 million he talked about, and Steve and I both thought, there's no way we can do that. So we started doing a little, throwing some thoughts out there, and I'm here to say that being in construction most of my life, there's many different ways we can go about building a building. And being a steel structure today, compared to a wood structure, it's less money. Your concrete work and everything is done, and then you build on up. So, you know, the floors would all be in. It would not be any floor coverings to go over in this building. We'd leave that alone. If we wanted to, down the road, to dress it up somewhat, I would suggest doing some stain of concrete stain or some things like that, which is, you know, you can do during the summertime and spruce things up. But to get the building up is what I'm trying to project to you. Couple $100,000 in a steel structure with the concrete floor in it, and then have us, you know, have the concession stand ready, and the locker rooms and everything. We can do some of that generaling within our area, do the generaling ourselves. I told them I would do it. I would like to be able to do it, let's put it that way. That way I could make sure we're getting our electrical, we're getting the people, our plumber guys, our heating guys in that we use, and get a good price. We have to get bids on everything. So by doing that, we can cut about 20% of the green off the top. Okay, that's his numbers, not mine. I think it's more than that, but that's me. So anyway, and when I talk about how, you know, if you got 200,000, that's the shell. Now we're going to have to put the internal walls in it. You know, there's guys in town here. We can do that. We can put a suspended ceiling in it, or we can put a bottom drop cord on the truss. On the front, they're facing out towards the football field. We'll cantilever out over the outside wall. They're about 6 feet to cover those doors and just to have a spot where you can be dry. I'd also like to put some cantilever out in front of the concession stands, so people that are at the concession stands, if it's foul weather, they're not getting drowned on, and have a cover there, maybe a couple tables for them to sit down and have their goodies. So sidewalk along the back side to the restrooms. Everything again is going to have to be ADA. That's going to push us towards either blacktop or concrete. So parking for the handicap would be right outside the gate, pretty much where it is today. So electrically, we have the service already put in last fall. As I think it was in August, September we did that. So there's a 200 amp service there that would feed this building. Plenty of power there to do the light projects on the football field, and then of course the LED lights that would go inside of this. So that's kind of giving you an outside view of where we're at. You know, as this came through this morning, Steve, I seen where he talked about, you know, if we were to shorten it up somewhat, we could cut off maybe 10% of the cost. You know, personally, I could see us going with a 90 and being just fine. But as Steve and I were laying things out, they always say, I wish I would have went bigger. So we went to the size that, you know, you got to start somewhere. So that's where we started. It was ideally, if it was this big, you know, this would be great. But sometimes we have to condense a little bit here and there, and I think there's some areas that we could.
Give me a perspective, how comparable is that to the current locker room?
I measured those locker rooms, and I had those at 27 by 24 is what the two that we have now. That one in the home locker room, that's more like 35 by 40, you know. Well, counting the bathrooms, that would be. But so it's a little bigger in the home locker room. Not the guest locker rooms maybe a little bit smaller, but you know, yeah.
Do any of the schools around have anything comparable?
Want to talk about that?
I just have only, I was talking to Steve, I've seen Pomeroy's, it's comparable. I don't know if they necessarily have locker rooms, but they have restrooms and concessions and storage.
Yeah, I can't remember if they have locker rooms or not.
But maybe a little smaller footprint, but kind of just similar and kind of look and feel, I think. That's the only one I've seen. Several of the schools really just kind of have like what we have now.
I think Prairie maybe has locker rooms.
Okay.
I don't remember that building, did you?
I haven't been up there since they finished their football field.
Is there any source of income, like, you know, with, you know, renting it out when you have your, granted, when we're doing our own program, that's one thing that I know we sometimes rent the field out to, like that Lewiston football league and stuff. I mean, I don't know if there's.
Yeah, I mean, we generally haven't charged groups.
Yeah.
You know, Steve and I were talking about when we were laying this out, it would be a very nice facility for the community. You know, we're now having funerals. We have for a number of years, really. But, you know, those are some things that as our school district, we can help support people when in need. And having a building like this takes it away from the school, the stench of football, away from the internal locker rooms in the building. You know, most of us guys play football, so we know that, you know, that's mud and everything that comes inside. But today, our environment inside the building, the air flows and everything, it gets pretty sour in the locker rooms, you know, so. And not that it wouldn't here, but we will have airflow that will be able to pull the air in and out, and heating, you know, cooling and so forth. And those would be mini split systems, so to keep the dollars down. We're not trying to heat this up during December, January, and we're not using it. You know, we'll winterize it and keep things minimal as far as costs go.
So like for cleaning, you got any idea on how many hours a week, you know, in the fall, like the janitor, custodian, to clean?
Yeah, we're looking about 30 minutes a night is in the locker rooms, you know, and then if we're doing the concession stands, normally the people in the concession stands do that, but just in the locker rooms, we're about 30 minutes.
So basically, you're talking less than an hour. When we had a team come, the guest locker room probably won't get used much, but I don't know, they might use it for Little League or whatever.
Right.
So we're not talking a great cost for.
No. I wouldn't see us having to have any major issues there. But it's a good question.
So you're talking $200,000 for a shell, and I know fixtures are expensive and showers and all that stuff. Are we talking another $200,000?
I don't think so, Don. I don't. I think we can, you know, doing it internally, we can purchase those ourselves. And I have been buying for 30 years these different materials that you can get, you know, through different services that are outfits out there that sell wholesale, retail, whatever. You know, I'll go find the best price I can. But more of your plumbing fixtures is all going to be in the running of the water lines throughout the building. And the way we structure this, I'm trying to get that so it's a pretty straight, one-line, clean setup where everything just drops right into it and right out into the city. You know, that's this here, this whole thing changed hands a couple times, and this is a rough graph. It's not I don't look at it as a final graph. So there's some areas that we'll discuss and be able to get things in line that we need to keep the cost of your plumbing down, your electrical down. Location on all those is very important. Each foot costs $8. So where we kick out to the city, we'll have to do some scoping of the lines and marking those out so we know exactly where we can tie in. We've got a line coming off of Tiger Drive that comes down the street and meets into the Bear Creek Road. The main line goes right up through Bear Creek Road, and then everything drops into it. And that's where we would tee into it too, is on the other side.
And so with locker rooms and restrooms, you aren't going to need too many windows, really.
No, we talked about that also, and I think we've all came to an agreement, the less the best. If we want to do some windows for light, getting some natural light.
It's nice to have a window so you can not completely dark in the locker room.
Natural light is good to have, and you put that up high, where you're not having people climb through them, and just have it so that you're getting the natural light into the building. You're going to be looking off the south, which would be the wall towards the parking lot, which is, we're talking about the locker room area is the only place. That's all your south wall, and as it comes around towards the football field, we're moving towards the west. Okay, so as the sun sets, it's going to be setting down behind that mountain anyways. But we could put some in up there, but more on that one end is where you're going to see the natural light.
So a little bit on timeline. So if we had a plan and we started this summer, I assume it would take us, what, a year?
Okay. In our discussions, in our wish list, we'll put it that way, we talked about early spring, of starting maybe even some of this preliminary work in the wintertime. We can go in and scope the sewer lines and see where they're at. We know that we're going to have a survey done, and we'll get quotes on that, and for our setbacks is what the reasoning is behind that. We have a special inspection that goes on when it's a building dealing with public entity. So that's a 1%, a half to 1% charge on the total cost of the building. GoTech is going to be a part of the footing size, and what we have to do is go out and dig a few holes out there in the ground where we're talking about the building to see how the land holds up with water and how it disperses the water through the ground. Those are all steps that we have to do preliminary. If we can get the ball rolling January, February in that area, maybe March, it's going to be muddy, but regardless, those trees will have to come out. The 3 sheds will be either sold off or moved to put the place in, to get the foundation dug and so forth. So, if we want to have it for football season next year, I'd say sooner the better. And I'm talking, as the infrastructure lines and so forth, the diggings, once we have made a decision or you guys have made a decision, then we start digging and get the ball rolling. I can't foresee a reason why we couldn't have it up and ready for football season.
And then Eric, I was going to ask you, at one point you talked about maybe looking at a grant to do some commercial kitchen type wood that might help with some of the bees.
I can, yeah. I've yet to see anything like that. I can look.
Well, if I can, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'd like to carry on with that a little bit. When Steve and I were talking, and we were talking about a building that could be used for the public, we we talked about a stove and an oven. You know, somebody can put out some bacon and some eggs and do something on big flats. What that's going to do is put us into, we have to have a hood on that, see, in the public building. And when you do those things, of course, we're talking stainless, and then you got to be able to hold down the fire in that spot. You know, the initial startup does not have to have that in there. What I'm saying is, we've been doing crock pots for quite a while. This is going to be a big kitchen for crock pots, but because it's going to have room for the refrigeration, the freezers are all going to be in there. It's going to be very user friendly. And then ideally drop that hood system in with the oven, stovetop, cooktop at a day when we've got this building up and rolling good. You know, it doesn't have to be in place at the beginning, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So these are some ways we can do construction and not have the big bill right out front. We can do some piecemealing over the next couple, 3, 5 years, whatever, you know. And that's the way I foresee that this would be best for our district, is get the place up, get the building up, the flooring in, you know, what I'm talking is concrete floor. And then that building is going to be insulated, you know, and have, get some prices on some internal walls to be put together and sheetrocked. And here's another thing, we go into the bathrooms. You know, a lot of the buildings today have tiles on the walls. You don't have to have tiles on the bathroom walls at the beginning. Down the road if we want, sure. I'm just giving you more ideas of where we can cut back at the beginning and put the gravy on it later, or the sugar frosting on it later, you know. You get the shell up first and then let us get, you know, the building up to where we would like to really see it. But that's how I see us doing it. Now, I don't know the bankroll here, and it's not my business, but that's the way I would see it if we were trying to be cautious.
So how does like a concrete block, how do they compare price-wise?
I couldn't answer that total square footage cost-wise, but I can tell you it's more.
Yeah, oh, you get your labor, you get a lot of labor.
Yeah. And
but I mean, they're nice buildings when they're up. I mean,
yes, they are. Absolutely. I have nothing wrong with them. And you know what? If I didn't have to really watch the dollar, steel isn't the way I would go. But it is what it is, and it will match up nicely with our school. We can do it in the same color forms if we want, or we can do orange and black and put some of our team colors on it more so. You know, we can also put in some, we don't have to put in whole brick walls, you know, we can put some fascia on it and dress it up along the concession stand area where people are going to see it, you know, maybe along the wall out towards the parking lot where people drive by and see it. But you don't have to do the whole wall, you know, just dress it up enough to make it appealing.
What about your workload with everything else that you have?
I would be overseeing it, you know, like I did when we did the gymnasium addition. I was the clerk of the work for the project. I would be more of a general contractor on the project, is what I'm offering, I guess I could say. But as far as the state logistics, I can work with all the inspectors. I've already met with the inspectors on different parts of doing this to get some ideas of going through my head of how we can do things. And I don't foresee it. You know, it's going to be a tough 3-4 months to get through that. But it's not an impossible thing. You know, if I can go see Steve for a minute and pop off once in a while, probably all right. But it is what it is. And it's a good thing, and I'm excited, you know, I'm not at the end of my career, but we're looking out that way, and I'd like to see us be a part of it. And I think it would really bring our community together as far as having opportunity for different VFW events, all kinds of events within our community. And I think that would be a good thing for our school to help out in the community in places that there's needs. So.
Well, what are people's thoughts on it?
I'm to the point, we gotta do something out there, I don't know, some kind of project, I mean, our concession stand's terrible. Our restrooms out there, everybody's gotta go across the road, I'm surprised we haven't had an incident over the years, people cross the road, because it's dark out there, and it's not a good spot to have bathrooms or whatever on the road, it's just, well, it's not a good place to have a school period, but that's where it is what it is, but, storage-wise, I mean, those sheds out there have already fallen in, they're not, a lot of them, they're not very good shape, so I mean, we're to a point we gotta do something, is my opinion.
That bathroom would be used as track storage.
Yeah, I mean, it'd make a good storage
Yeah.
building, very nice storage.
Yeah, for sports it would be. Yeah.
I would say go big or go home. You know, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right.
How are we gonna pay for it?
You're gonna take it out of that general fund?
Well, as long as we don't go to the taxpayers, I think we can handle it, but if we go to the taxpayers, raise the levy, it ain't gonna fly.
No, I think we could be fiscally responsible and take it out of our general fund, I think we'll be fine. Personally, I mean, we've been kind of, you know,
We've been frugal.
we've been brutal, and we've had this in our back of our mind, you know, we had some projects bigger projects we wanted to get done, and we didn't want to go to the taxpayer to get these projects done, so.
You say we have room for HB stuff in there?
Possible. I mean, and this is just a rough, this is just a starting point. I mean, this is nothing final here on the blueprint, correct?
No.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere, you gotta.
That's right. It's exactly what, it's changed twice since we started putting things up, you know?
Yeah.
But we went through and measured locker rooms, shower rooms, and so forth, and that was how we come together on how we laid it out first. And then there's been some changes here and there. Just, you know, there's more than one idea is good.
The only thing, maybe, you know, either have the restrooms out on the front instead of on the back side, maybe, if we could have them out front, maybe, or on the end, and there's a concession. I don't know, it's kind of
All right.
I don't know, that's just a thought, I don't know. Because it'd be back on the back side, it could be kind of congested getting in and out of them.
I agree. I had it originally set up, there would be a hallway coming from the front, the football field side, down through the middle of the building into the bathrooms. And what that does is separate some of that home team, visitor team locker room noise going on, and you got people going through there and so forth, where it's maybe not.
Well, now you got the storage room and mechanical that separates it, you got the.
It's you know, it's a rough draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to do something kind of visible, you know. It's when you know, are putting your money in on the levies and stuff, and we get that roofs have to be done and furnaces have to be repaired, but it's nice for the community to see something visible once in a while. That's, you know, everybody can be a part of. So it's too bad we don't have some of our spring sports closer, so it could get a little more use instead of just football. But that is what it is. So.
Well, I know funding it with the bond or something is really a lot of work. And if we can do it out of the general fund and do a piecemeal, you guys will be a lot better off.
I think so.
you wanted to get some really good, solid cost estimates, what would be the next step? I mean, would you start breaking it down with this floor plan? Or?
I think what we ought to do is form a committee as a plan goes, and I would like to see, personally, if I was going to head it up, I would be a part of it. Steve, Morgan, maybe a board member. I think it would be good to have a board member on.
Maybe a community member would be smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then we can hash out a good design. And I think we've got the guys in Pullman that have done work with us before, and I know, and comfortable with, and we've been successful with. So those are the people that I'd like to circle myself around, and I have contractors, subcontractors that we do work all the time with, and I'd like to be able to bring them into this to put the building together and get prices from them. I think we can keep the numbers reasonable.
I'm looking at, so 4,000 square feet, to piecemeal together, do a lot of the self-performed stuff, you're at $700,000, so you're at $175 a square foot. That just sounds high.
It is
for this kind of structure. And there's not a lot of amenities, there's not a lot of expensive stuff there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
4 bathrooms and,
no,
my guess is these numbers will be high. I've never done anything.
I'm not gonna quote your price, but I've got something in mind that it does. I'm trying to keep my lips shut because it's not that I can back the price, but once I can back it, then we'll know. Before we start digging and start making decisions, you'll have a number in front of you where this should be pretty close.
Yep.
Okay, so.
And really that is kind of the trend right now. I mean, you know, the unfinished floors, the concrete floors, and even your exposed ceilings and some of that stuff is really, you see it right now. And so there isn't any reason that you can't, you know, have a lot of that look already.
Is there any other discussion?
Anything else?
All right, then I guess we'll move into the supplemental levy election.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. With this one, I just wanted to give us a chance to talk about it. We, if the board wanted to run that levy in March, we would need to set that date this month. That's just the date, that's it. So, is there any conversation about that?
March always seems, it works good, I think, for us. Seems to have in the past.
It works good for us, yeah.
You want to run 2 years or 1 year?
My vote would be for 2, but
Say it again.
I said my vote would be for 2 years. Seems like that second, it comes real quick. Yeah, but whatever you guys think.
I think 2 years.
You think 1 year? You think 2? Yeah. I've always been a supporter of 2.
Kind of hard to face it every year.
Any other thoughts on that? We have an action item tonight to set the date.
Our last one, I did a little bit of research on it. I think we should probably review it, but we did have a few areas that were surprisingly notes, more so than we've had in a long time, and it wasn't an increase. So we just, you know, I don't know if we need to campaign a little more this year or what, but just a heads up, it wasn't as high a number as we normally see.
Do you remember, I don't know if I talked about it at the board meeting, but I went back and looked at all of our levy elections that were held, like on the presidential years, and those were always the lowest.
For your
Pass
voters,
rates.
they're all registered and it's.
It was the lowest pass rates, those presidential years. for the last few.
Is there any compelling reason not to do it in March? I mean, any advantages, disadvantages that anybody knows of?
Well,
Go ahead. The disadvantage is if it doesn't pass in March, you can run it again in May. And if you run it in May and it doesn't pass, then you're into August.
And the other advantage is,
And we're building a building and we don't have a lot of extra to play with. I mean, if we weren't building a building, we'd probably be fine.
disadvantage, some people say that you're doing it like before you really kind of know what funding's going to look like the following year from the state, but I'm not sure if that's really true that much.
Yeah.
I'd say over the last few years, we've pretty much known what we were gonna get from the state, even when we said it.
Usually kind of have an idea.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes even for the May election, we don't know. We said it in March, and we still don't know, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else on that? Should we go into the action items then?
Yep.
Okay, the first action agenda item is to adopt policy 5620, safety management program and district personnel. We had the first reading last month, and so we just need to approve it this month. This is a recommended policy.
I'll make the motion to adopt policy 5620.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt policy 5620. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Okay, the next item, 9B, is to set the supplemental levy election day.
I'll make a motion, we set the levy election date for March 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we set the supplemental levy date for March 2021.
March 9th is when it is. Like, the actual day is March 9th.
March 9th, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Procedure.
But we have, that'll be next month.
All those opposed, motion
The
carried.
amount?
Amount of time.
Yeah, excellent. The resolution and the amount, like the resolution language and the amount would have to be done next month.
Okay, the next item is to consider substitute teacher pay increase. Steve, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah. So this is one that, I'm not sure if we've reviewed it since I've been here, but it's one that I thought I would bring to you guys this month. It's also something that came up at the district leadership team meeting. We've been strategizing on if there's any ways out there to get more subs in the building. It's a challenge for everybody, it's not just us. But we did want the board to look at considering increasing the pay. You can see there what our rates are for both certified and classified staff sub rates. If we were to increase our sub pay rate to a flat $80 per day, it would increase our cost by about $3,500 per year based on what we've seen the last few years, just to kind of give you an idea of what that would look like. There's nothing saying you have to do like a flat rate. You can do a non-certified or certified. So there's different options there, but something to think about.
We definitely have to. I paid $80, so there's more than that. improvement that gives for them. That's, I mean, we're lucky we even get subs for that amount. So,
So if you did, would you want us to do flat rate, or you want to do it certified, non-certified?
You know, my preference would be just a flat rate, because honestly, like most of our subs are non-certified. I think for office reasons, it's probably just simpler, than we're not requesting certificates from subs and things like that, but you know, either way is fine, but a flat rate, I think. I would prefer.
do we think 80 is enough, or do we need to be closer to Gary's rate at 90?
I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what it would cost, so I'm not recommending anything, I'm just, that's what it would.
How many substitutes do we use the Gary or Troy in our system for substitutes?
How many what?
How many substitutes do we lose when Gary and Troy both day work? I mean, have you ever?
I don't know, I mean, I can think of one or two maybe in the last 7-8 years. It's not a lot to those other towns, and I mean, honestly, I don't know if this would help our sub situation. I mean, if we brought in 1 or 2 more people that maybe would do it, that's a big difference. I don't know if it would do that or not. I mean, right now, we've got at the high school, elementary is a little bit better off. The high school, we're at about 2.5 subs. We have one person that really can't sub very often, so we're about 2.5. And so, you know, we piece it together. You know, I subbed 2 periods today for a teacher.
I heard
Sub
you
two.
did eat the other day, I heard all
Yeah.
about it.
We pulled Mrs. Glenn out to sub a little bit today. So, you know, we're piecing it together when we have, you know, when we need to.
So if we increased the flat rate at 85, we'd be kind of in between Gary and Troy, or?
Good idea.
I think that sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Is that-
I'd be in favor of that.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we increase the substitute teacher pay to $85 per day flat rate for a non-certified or certified teacher. Is that how you understand the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. The next item is to consider moving forward with the football fieldhouse project. And I assume when you say move forward, you would work with the architect, is that basically?
Yeah, I think maybe, you know, I think like Joe said, I think maybe a committee, putting together a committee to come up with some options and bring back to the board maybe next month for another discussion item. I don't want to move too fast, to be honest. I think the price is pretty high. If we can come up with maybe some different ideas for you guys to consider, that might be good. What do you guys think about that? I've got a few ideas maybe to change that up a bit. So. But no, it's not a motion to break ground next week. So. But
I'll make a motion though that we move forward with the project and get a committee together.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we move forward with the study of football fieldhouse project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
do we feel like putting together a committee and then come back to the board next month is a good next step?
Yeah.
It'd be nice, I think, to just get a sense of, there's cost of a shelf, and then start breaking it down. 'Cause I think Chad's idea, Chad's concept of making brick, that may not change the overall cost of the project a whole lot, which is going to last a heck of a lot better. It's going to hold up better, and football facilities take a beating. Steel siding gets dented, it gets beat up, it's just, it's a 5 or 10% increase of the overall project. It's something really worth bearing in mind.
And the price of lumber right now is like triple what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along, action item 9E, which is to approve hiring Robert Bedner as a temporary event custodian. Steve, do you have any comments on
Yeah.
that?
What we see at the high school is that we do not have enough custodial coverage when we have games. And so what typically happens is, depending on who the custodian is, either classrooms don't get cleaned very well because we're spending too much time in the gym, or the gym doesn't get cleaned because we're just doing our normal routine in the school. What I would like to do, and I see this as a common thing in other schools, is they have somebody come in after game nights and clean for an hour to two. I put it out to all of our staff internally and students, and came up with one person who would like to do it. This is a student. What this would look like is, maybe 90 minutes after the game during basketball season this year, next year. I mean, if we continue.
Maybe 9 minutes this year.
Yeah, I mean, this year it wouldn't happen. Like, honestly.
No popcorn if we.
Right. I told him, I said the other day, I said, I guess you're not needed anymore. But if things change, I mean, just moving forward, if we could have somebody, for an hour or so, maybe 90 minutes after games, that would help our situation in the gym tremendously, or the classrooms, depending on what's going on there. When we do the math, this would cost us, for the whole basketball season, high school and junior high, it would cost us about $500. I think it would be worth it. I don't like how the bleachers and stuff look right now. They're a mess.
I would just say, as somebody who employs a lot of students, somebody needs to have a little oversight, probably.
Yes. And I think that, Joe and I talked, we would meet with him. If this happens this year, I don't even know if it's going to happen, but maybe it's somebody else down the road. And kind of go through that. You're right.
I mean, just someone the next morning checking it out,
Yep.
because I'm just telling you what I get. It's the quality is.
Well,
Just because it's checked off the.
here that evening to oversee it anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm in there the next morning to see like how it's
Or
went.
whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. My preference would be to have an adult in there, but.
And I think you get the right student. I just think they just need a little bit of guidance, more than
There needs to be expectations set.
expectations set, and then just follow up. Whether someone's checking it at the end of the night or the next morning, and
I agree.
So I'll make a motion, we hire a temporary event custodian.
Move the second that we hire Robert Bedner as a temporary event custodian if needed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next agenda item is board member input for future agenda items. Anybody have anything?
We got a new bus coming in January.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
Everything's still on task, huh?
Everything's still going forward, yep.
Good.
Okay.
And we took bus 8 to the Kibbe Dome the other day. We don't want to be taking it up to the Kibbe Dome anymore. Really?
lucky to make it back.
We're lucky we're getting rid of it. It's $40,000 to have that rebuilt. So we're putting $40,000 into a new bus. Good move. So, just sharing what I see.
So, there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Moving second to we adjourn, all in favor say aye.